Something unusual is forming in the silver market right now, and very few people are talking about the math behind it. Imagine a market where tens of millions of ounces exist physically, but hundreds of millions of ounces are represented in contracts. That gap alone creates tension, and when tension builds long enough in any system, the outcome can reshape the entire landscape. Today, we're exploring the idea behind a perfect storm in silver, where 73.6 million ounces face off against roughly 384.7 million ounces of open interest, and why this simple piece of math is capturing the attention of market watchers around the world. Silver has always been a fascinating metal. It sits at the crossroads of industry, technology, and monetary history. It's used in electronics, solar panels, medicine, and countless other applications, but it has also served as a store of value for centuries. When conversations about silver intensify, they usually revolve around price movements or economic headlines. But sometimes the deeper story lies not in the price itself, but in the structure of the market behind it. The title, Silver's Perfect Storm, 73.6 Against 384.7 Oz, in open interest, May Silver Math Breaks, points toward one of the most important ideas in commodity markets, the relationship between physical supply and paper contracts. To understand the significance of that number, imagine a theater with 100 seats. If 100 tickets are sold, everything works perfectly. But what happens if 400 tickets are sold for the same 100 seats? Most of the time it works because not everyone shows up at once. But if a large group arrives expecting their seat at the same time, the system suddenly feels pressure. This metaphor helps illustrate how futures markets operate. Contracts often represent far more metal than is actually sitting in warehouses. That structure allows liquidity and price discovery to function smoothly most of the time, but occasionally observers notice moments where the ratio between physical inventory and open interest becomes unusually large. That's when analysts begin asking deeper questions. And that brings us back to the numbers in the title. Roughly 73.6 million ounces of registered silver standing against around 384.7 million ounces represented by open interest. Whether one interprets this as a normal market structure or an emerging tension depends on perspective, but the math itself invites curiosity. Think about the psychology of markets for a moment. Markets are not just numbers and charts. They are reflections of human expectations. Every contract represents someone's belief about the future. Someone believes prices might rise, another believes they might fall, and the market becomes the arena where those expectations meet. When open interest grows large relative to available supply, it tells a story about participation. It tells us that many participants are involved in the narrative of silver at that moment in time, and narratives are powerful forces. History shows that markets often move not only because of economic fundamentals, but because of shifts in perception. A single idea can change how people interpret data. When a narrative spreads, whether about inflation, industrial demand, geopolitical tension, or monetary policy, it influences how participants behave. That's why moments like this capture attention, because sometimes the most interesting developments in markets aren't visible on the price chart yet. They are visible in the underlying structure, the positioning, the ratios, the flows of contracts and inventory. Another way to think about it is through the lens of pressure systems. In nature, storms form when different atmospheric conditions collide. Warm air meets cold air. Pressure systems interact. Energy builds quietly before the storm appears on the horizon. Markets often behave in similar ways. Large open interest, changing demand patterns, and shifts in global economic narratives can act like those atmospheric forces. For a long time, nothing dramatic happens. The system absorbs the pressure, participants adjust their positions, the market finds balance, but occasionally the balance changes quickly, not because the math suddenly appeared, but because the math was there all along and the collective awareness of it changed. One of the most valuable lessons any market observer can learn is that numbers alone do not create movement. Interpretation does. Two analysts can look at the same data and arrive at completely different conclusions. Some might see the silver numbers and view them as routine for futures markets. Others might see them as a sign that the structure deserves closer attention. Both perspectives can exist at the same time, and the dialogue between them is what keeps markets dynamic. This is why understanding market mechanics can be so empowering for viewers and learners. When you begin studying concepts like open interest, registered inventory, futures delivery cycles, and contract leverage, the market stops looking like random price fluctuations and starts looking like a complex system with identifiable patterns. Another important dimension to consider is the timing element hinted at in the title, May. Commodity markets often operate around delivery months. During those periods, contracts approach expiration and participants must decide how to respond. Some close positions, others roll them forward, and a smaller number may choose to stand for delivery. These cycles create moments where observers pay closer attention to the relationship between paper contracts and available inventory. Again, it doesn't automatically mean anything dramatic will happen. Markets have operated this way for decades. But the awareness of the numbers can spark conversations that ripple through financial communities, social media, and analytical circles. And that ripple effect matters, because markets are ecosystems of information. Every headline, every chart, every discussion contributes to the collective understanding of what might be unfolding. In many ways, the most important skill for anyone studying markets is not prediction, it is perspective. Perspective allows you to step back and ask deeper questions. Instead of reacting emotionally to headlines, you begin examining the structure behind them. Instead of chasing excitement, you focus on understanding systems. Silver, perhaps more than many other commodities, attracts this kind of analytical curiosity. It has a long history of dramatic cycles. Periods of quiet accumulation are often followed by moments of intense volatility. Industrial demand intersects with monetary narratives. Technological innovation intersects with centuries-old perceptions of value. That combination makes silver one of the most discussed metals in financial commentary. But the deeper lesson here isn't about predicting what silver will do next. It's about recognizing how numbers can reveal hidden dimensions of a market. When you see a ratio like 73.6 million ounces versus 384.7 million ounces, it invites a question. What does this structure tell us about participation, leverage, and expectations? And that question alone can lead to powerful learning. For viewers who want to become more informed observers of financial markets, moments like this are opportunities to expand knowledge. You can start tracking open interest trends, comparing them with historical ranges, and learning how inventory levels fluctuate across delivery cycles. You might explore how industrial demand influences long-term trends in metals. You might study how global economic uncertainty affects investor sentiment toward tangible assets. Each layer of understanding strengthens your ability to interpret market narratives without becoming overwhelmed by them. Another valuable mindset shift is to focus on curiosity rather than certainty. Markets rarely reward absolute confidence. They reward adaptability and awareness. The most experienced analysts often speak in probabilities and scenarios rather than guarantees. When you approach financial information with curiosity, every chart becomes a learning opportunity. Every statistic becomes a clue about how complex systems interact. And over time, that perspective transforms how you view not just silver, but the entire world of economics and finance. Because ultimately, markets are reflections of human behavior. They respond to innovation, fear, optimism, technology, policy decisions, and countless other forces. A simple ratio between physical metal and open interest might seem like a small detail, but it represents the collective actions of thousands of participants interacting within a global system. That's what makes the idea of a perfect storm so compelling. Not because a storm is guaranteed, but because the ingredients are worth studying. And studying those ingredients builds financial literacy, something that benefits anyone navigating the modern economy. In a world filled with rapid headlines and constant noise, the ability to slow down and analyze numbers thoughtfully becomes a powerful advantage. You begin seeing patterns where others see chaos. You begin asking questions where others see conclusions. And that mindset, more than any specific trade or investment idea, is the real long-term asset. So as discussions around silver's unusual ratios continue, the most valuable takeaway may simply be awareness. Awareness that markets operate through structures beneath the surface. Awareness that numbers can reveal stories long before they appear in mainstream headlines. And awareness that education, the willingness to learn how these systems function, is one of the most powerful tools any individual can develop. Because whether you're a casual observer, a student of economics, or someone fascinated by global markets, understanding the mechanics behind headlines transforms how you interpret the financial world. And sometimes, a single piece of math can open the door to that deeper understanding. If you found this exploration valuable and you enjoy thoughtful discussions about silver, markets, and financial awareness, take a moment to support the channel. Like the video so more curious minds can discover the conversation. Share your perspective in the comments about how you interpret the silver math unfolding right now, and subscribe for more calm, insightful breakdowns of the forces shaping global markets. Because the more we learn about how these systems work, the better prepared we are to navigate whatever storms or opportunities the future may bring.